Hello, my name is Jonathan here with Utility Profit. You've just set up your account, you've loaded your branding, you've synced your listings, and now it's time to start implementing your platform today. I'm going to take you through a step-by-step guide on how to best use your platform for you, your team, and your tenants. So let's dive into it. Now, when you log into your account, the first thing you're going to want to do is invite your team. You can click this icon here, or you can click Settings, Team Members, Add Member, and start adding your team from here. This allows your team individually to have their own logins. Now let's take a look at a live platform so you can see what it looks like. Now let's go ahead and jump down to the synced listings section of your Utility Profit dashboard. Whenever you went through onboarding and you input your vacancies URL, this automatically synced your Utility Profit dashboard with the synced listing. So you'll notice your listings living into this area here. You'll also notice that trash and sewer are automatically disabled. This is usually because trash and sewer are roped into one of the other providers, but it's very simple for you to go in and enable that if the provider is different from any of the other electric, water, or gas providers. You'll also probably notice, since the listings have just been synced into your platform, the mapping application will prompt a message that looks something like this. Over time, the mapping application will start loading those providers well before the tenant's ready to start using it and getting their services connected. Now, once those services are mapped, it'll look similar to this, to where the internet provider, the electric, the water, the gas providers, if there's multiple, those will also be listed under the address. Now, if you wanted to add a note for the water provider, for example, you can actually click this edit button and add a note for the tenant, or maybe for the electricity provider, you wanted to add the meter number. That way they knew exactly what to get connected at that property. That functionality will live in this section here. If you needed to share a document with your tenant, you can also add a document in this section here. You can upload the document, select which service provider it's for, and then add an additional note for your tenant. Most regions don't require additional documents, but some do require documents. For example, if maybe you need to fill out a document that the property management company has to fill out, sign, and then the tenant has to take that document, fill it out, sign it, and then provide it to the water company in order to establish service, that would be an example of utilizing that add document feature. Another feature is, for whatever reason, let's say that this address was right on the border and it's actually not Augusta Water for the water provider. You can go in, you can click edit, you can actually remove that option. And then you can add a provider directly. Maybe it's Aqua Water. You can add that right in there and replace it again. And it stores it within the platform, so it doesn't have to do that every single time. This just allows you and your team the ability to do that if it ever came up. Now, if this property, for example, the tenant was not required to pay for water, or maybe it's an all-electric home and they don't need to pay for gas, you can easily click this disable icon. That'll disable that. That way the tenant's not trying to go in and set those services up in their name. When you click disable, you just go down and click this confirm button, and then you'll notice on your sync listings, it'll be disabled. And again, that way the tenant's not trying to set up a service that's not required to be put into your name. Now, if for whatever reason you have a property that maybe you pre-leased and it never showed up on your vacancies URL, you can always click this add address icon and you can start typing in the address and then add the address manually into your platform. Now that your vacancies are synced within your Utility Profit dashboard, where does the tenant go to start connecting utilities once they've been approved for that specific property? Well, there's really two ways that that's going to happen. The first way is during onboarding, if you added the AppFolio sync, for example, our system will automatically pull that information from your AppFolio and sync that tenant to that specific address that they've been approved for. That will automatically move that tenant up to your utility activation section. When the tenant moves to this section via that integration, they will receive a text message from our system on where to go to start connecting utilities. We also encourage that you put the template within your welcome or approval emails, and also just talk to your tenants on where to go to start getting tenant utilities connected. And they will use your custom link, which also lives within your utility profit dashboard up here on the top left. So this is the link that your tenants will use to begin setting up utilities into their name. When the tenant clicks on that link, it'll take them to a screen that looks very similar to this with your branding, and they can start searching for the address they've been approved for. This will pull from your portfolio. They'll find the address, they'll hit continue, and then that takes them to the screen to start setting up their utilities. So if I'm the tenant, I can first select internet. I can easily compare the options that are available at my property. In this example, Spectrum and AT&T fiber are the available options. And whichever option makes the most sense for me, I just select that package and then move on to continue to the next page. Now, if I wanted to transfer my existing service, if I already had AT&T and I wanted to just transfer it to the new property, I could use this function down here of transfer my current internet. I can search for the provider that's available, AT&T fiber, hit search. I just input my current plan, what the monthly price is, if I'm in a contract, and then I can begin transferring my service. But let's say that I have Xfinity at my current property. The system will automatically recognize at the new property that Xfinity is not wired at that property, letting the tenant know accurately that they would not be able to transfer service, and then they'd have to set up a new service because these are the providers that are wired at that specific property. So once the tenant selects the package that makes sense for them, they just hit continue. They input whatever information is required for that specific provider. And once they hit confirm order, that completes out the setup of their internet service. Now, once the internet's completed, a green checkbox will appear, and then they can move on to the next utility. So if I go to water, our system's not integrated with the city of Richardson, but we will always provide the tenant the information they need to know to get that service put into their name. So if I select the city of Richardson, I can either call the phone number directly as the tenant, or it'll take me right to the sign-on page to start setting up new service at that specific property. Now, once I, as the tenant, have completing setting up my city of Richardson water service, instead of emailing you as the property manager an email at a time or a text message of those confirmations, I just put that confirmation ID or new account number right into the system here, select the activation date of service, and then I hit save. Now, if there's no ID available, I can actually upload proof that I've set up that service via a screenshot of an email from that provider or whatever proof is available. Once I click save, that'll complete out the water service, and I would just move on to the next utility provider. Now, once all utilities are completed, it'll look very similar to this page right here. And the tenant will know everything's been set up and they can start getting either their lockbox code or the keys to the property. Now, what happens in the admin dashboard is as the tenant begins setting up their services into their name, you'll be able to view what services have or have not been completed yet by the tenant. So in this example, this tenant right here that's moving into this property, 735 Magruder Court, we can see that she's completely green. Everything's been completed in her name. The internet column here is the first column. Obviously, that's not required to get your keys into your name, so there will be some orange incompletes. But for core utilities, you'll obviously want to make sure that these are all green because the tenant has completed those utilities into their name. You can also click on the address and you'll be able to get a more detailed view of the company they set up, the account confirmation ID, the day that they activated those services. So all of that will live within your platform. So you've got a really good at-a-glance view to know what's going on with utilities for each one of your properties. Another really cool feature of our platform is your tenant will automatically be nudged along the way as well. So when there's 7 days, 5 days, 3 days, and 1 day out from the lease start date, if the tenant has any utilities that are still orange, the system will text them just a friendly nudge and reminder, hey, your lease is coming up. You haven't done electricity yet. Here's where you go to do that. Make sure you get that completed. Just guiding them and walking through the steps that they need to know to get that service put into their name. So this is a really great feature for your leasing team to give you an at-a-glance view to see what all is going on each one of the properties with utility connections. Now, your team does not have to constantly log into the platform to see updates. our system will automatically email your team with the email that you put on file once all utilities are completed. So that email will be sent your way, just a confirmation to let you know, hey, these utilities have been completed by this tenant at this specific property. The renter reminders feature is also another pretty cool tool. So let's say that you have a tenant that is approved for the property, but you've noticed that they haven't started setting up their utilities yet. You can text them, you can nudge them, but you can also have our system automatically do that for you. By clicking the send renter reminders, input the renter's basic information, click start sending. That'll automatically move them up to this section as well. This is mostly used for people that are not integrated into their property management software. Again, it'll move that tenant up to the utility activation section, at which time our system starts automatically nudging them so they know where to go and how to get utilities put into their name. The dashboard is definitely the favorite feature of our partners. You can see now all of the properties, what's going on with utility connections at a glance. The old method was either chasing tenants down for utility confirmations, storing it internally, maybe a Google Sheet, or passing messages and emails around to the leasing team. Again, now you, the team, you all have logins and everyone's able to see at a glance what's going on with each one of those properties. And it doesn't disrupt anything for the tenants flow because most tenants are already used to having to email or text or bring in some capacity confirmation that they have got those core utilities put into their name. So it really streamlines the tenants moving experience as well to not have to bother you about who's the electric provider, what's the internet company that sets up at the property I've been approved for. You no longer have to field those questions. You can just point them right to your platform. And if the tenant does have any questions along the way, there is that chat support and that live phone number that the tenant can contact within the platform. We have an entire team in our call center here in Austin that fields any of those questions, like an extension of your leasing team, making it smooth, simple, and easy for everybody. Now at the top here, you'll notice the summary section. If you want to learn exactly how payouts work, you can click on this icon here. But this area is where you'll be able to see the revenue that you've generated by utilizing the Utility Profit platform. If you don't already know this, our platform is totally free to you. There is no cost. There's no onboarding fee. There's no setup fee. There's no monthly software fee. And obviously, there's no fee to your tenants. The reason why that is because Utility Profit generates revenue by paid service providers. So internet, for example, when a tenant connects internet, those internet providers pay us, and then we pass a portion of that revenue back to you. And that'll live in this summary section here. And it's very much like Venmo. Once you build revenue in your pending payout, you can click on it and initiate a transfer. You can save it for monthly, quarterly, save it for a Christmas party, however you want to utilize those funds. Those will live within your platform, just like a Venmo account. As you can tell, our platform is very simple, very straightforward, easy to use for your tenants, easy to use for your leasing team. If you do have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to your support contact within your platform directly. We're here for you. We're excited to grow with you, and we're excited to be a tool to utilize for you, your tenants, and your leasing team.